Thank you for joining us for this live stream on the science and practice of yoga as we wrap up National Yoga Month. My name is Lanay Mudd. I am a program officer in the clinical research branch at the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health. We fund research on several different mind and body interventions, and I oversee much of our yoga research portfolio. I am joined today by my puppy Dusty in the background, as well as my colleague, Dr. Pam Jeter. Hi, Pam.
Hi, Lanay. My name is Pam Jeter, and I also work at NCCIH. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the science on yoga that NCCIH has been supporting. And afterwards, we'll go through a simple sequence, and we invite you to join us. The term yoga is applied to a lot of different types of practices. What is yoga?
Thanks, Pam. That's a really great question. At its core, yoga is a practice that involves both the body and the mind. And while classical yoga encompasses other elements, yoga as practiced in the United States typically emphasizes physical postures, which are sometimes called asanas, breathing techniques or pranayama, and meditation or mantra. There are a lot of different styles of yoga, ranging from physically vigorous and movement-intensive practices that are flow yoga or vinyasa yoga, to the more relaxing, restorative practices such as yin yoga, where you might hold a pose for 3 to 5 minutes at a time. NCCIH has actually funded research on a wide range of yoga styles. And personally, I engage in different types of yoga depending on the day and what I'm looking to get out of my practice that day.
Yes, and today will be the day of Zoom yoga. So what are some of the reasons people practice yoga?
Sure. Well, first I want to say that yoga is pretty popular. According to a national survey in 2017, 1 in 7 U.S. adults, or about 14%, say that they have practiced yoga in the past year, and about 8% of kids and adolescents have practiced yoga in the last year. And this is a large increase from the last time that same survey was done about 5 years earlier. And according to this national survey, most people who do yoga say they participate for general health and wellness reasons. Over 80% of individuals practicing yoga say it helps them reduce their stress and improve their overall health and wellness. 59% said that their sleep improved, while 63% said they felt more motivated to exercise, and a little over 40% were more motivated to eat better. In addition to these general health and well-being benefits, some individuals do use yoga to help them manage health conditions, such as pain and other symptom management. And NCCIH is actively funding research in this area. There are some exciting findings, actually, that yoga can help manage back and neck pain, which may be even more relevant now that a lot of us are spending more time at home hunched over our laptop.
Yeah, can you speak more about that? What are some of the research findings that studies from NCCIH has funded on yoga?
Sure. So NCCIH has actually funded a couple of larger scale trials on yoga for low back pain. In both of these cases, results showed that individuals in the yoga groups had better improvements in pain and in physical function compared to those in the education control groups. One of these trials, conducted at Boston University, actually showed that yoga was equally as helpful as physical therapy in relieving pain and improving function. This is important because physical therapy is often considered the gold standard treatment for low back pain, and this study showed that yoga could work equally as well. And the participants in this study were racially diverse and included those from lower socioeconomic status too. In addition to these promising results on back pain, another NCCIH-funded study looked to see if yoga could be useful for adults with generalized anxiety disorder. They randomized adults into 3 groups: Kundalini yoga, cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is the gold standard treatment for anxiety, and a health education control group. This study just recently finished, and the results showed that yoga was helpful for generalized anxiety disorder, but not quite as helpful as CBT. Adults in both the yoga and CBT groups showed more improvement than the control group, but improvements in anxiety were stronger for the CBT group. So these findings are also promising and suggest that yoga may be a helpful part of anxiety treatment, although CBT remains the gold standard. So these are a couple of findings from the larger scale trials that we have funded.
Great. What other research is NCCIH currently funding on yoga?
Yeah, so aside from these few larger scale trials that I've just discussed, much of our current research portfolio on yoga is still in the developmental phase, as investigators are refining their interventions and testing the feasibility and acceptability of the yoga intervention in different groups of people. NCCIH is funding this type of developmental work for a wide variety of conditions. So a few examples include work to develop a yoga intervention for depression in teenagers, a telehealth yoga program for chronic pain in veterans. We're also funding work to develop a yoga intervention for anger management in incarcerated adults, as well as a yoga intervention for young people involved in the juvenile justice system. And also more research on pain, looking at a group-based yoga intervention for chronic pelvic pain in women. In addition to this exciting work, we are also funding work that is looking at the usefulness of yoga for individuals with opioid use disorder. So one of our studies actually recently showed that hatha yoga was feasible and acceptable for adults that were in medication-assisted therapy for opioid use disorder. And they are now funded to see if they can feasibly implement this intervention in multiple sites in preparation for a larger scale trial to see if yoga may help adults in medication-assisted therapy adhere to that treatment. In addition, as part of the Helping End Addiction Long-Term initiative across the NIH, we're supporting a study of a yoga-based relapse prevention program for pregnant women who are in treatment for opioid use disorder as well. So that's just a snapshot of the broad range of research that we are currently invested in for developing yoga interventions.
I love how yoga is expanded to such a diverse health population. What resources are there for people to learn more about the research on yoga?
Yeah, NCCIH has developed several resources for people who want to learn more, and links for these resources will appear in the live feed for those of you who are watching. So briefly, NCCIH has developed an ebook called Yoga for Health that you can download for free. And for those who want a more in-depth look, we have also developed a yoga fact sheet that you can download as well. In addition, for those who want a more experiential resource, the NIH, as part of its hashtag Coping with COVID-19 live stream series, produced a 30-minute yoga practice called Gentle Stretch Yoga for You, which you can find on YouTube. And I do want to mention, Pam, the article that you actually wrote last year about yoga in the NIH News and Health. And so the links for all of those resources will be available in the live stream. So now that we've talked through quite a bit of the science of yoga, I'm pretty ready to do a little practice. So Pam, do you want to guide us through a short yoga practice right now?
Yeah, sounds great. Okay, so this is going to be fun. I'm going to lead a very short sequence of poses. We're going to focus on moving with the breath. So we'll transition from pose to pose, and we'll hold the pose for a count of 3 to 5 breaths. And I'll try to guide you through that. I will try to keep the movement going, but I will also demonstrate different variations of the poses. So I'd like for you to do whatever is most comfortable. Make sure that you're focusing on your breathing, most importantly, and make sure your breath is steady. If you find that you're now losing your breath or if labor becomes more labored, then back off of the pose and do a different variation. Please, if you can, try to breathe through your nose. And Lanay's going to follow along, and she's going to be doing some of the modified postures too, so you can watch both of us and follow along. All right. Now I'm going to move over to the mat now. Okay, so we're going to start with a couple of tongue salutes. So if you'll join me on your mat or wherever you are, stand in mountain pose with your feet firmly grounded into the floor or the ground, and follow along with the inhales and the exhales. Ready? Let's begin. Inhale, bringing the arms up towards the sky. Exhale, folding forward. You can place your hands here or come all the way down, bending the knees or lengthening. Inhale again, lifting the head, lengthening through the spine. And then exhale, stepping back into plank. Here you can bring your knees down and come down into Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. We'll stay here for 5 breaths. Feel free to place your feet hip distance and bend your knees if you need to. Breathing 1. Breathing 2. 3. 4. 5. Step it back up. Head forward, inhaling, head up only. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, back to standing, raising the arms all the way to the ceiling, and exhale, release, hands to the side. Second one, we'll do sun salute B. Inhale, bending the knees, bringing the arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, folding forward. Knees bent if you need to. Inhale, head up only. Exhale, step or jump back and lower down. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Right foot comes forward into warrior 1. Inhaling, arms all the way up to the ceiling. Exhale, folding all the way down to the floor. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Second side, left foot comes forward, inhaling into warrior. Exhale, folding forward. Inhale, up dog. Exhale, down dog. Breathing, 5 breaths. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. Exhaling here. And we're just going to come forward and place your knees on the floor, however you want to get there, to a seated position. I'm going to scoot to the center of my mat so that you can see me. Seated staff pose. Legs are straight with your quads engaged, feet are flexed. You can bend your knees if you need to. Hands are placed by your hips. Shoulder blades are drawn down the back, nice and straight. Chin is slightly tucked. Breathing here, 5 breaths. 1. gazing softly at the toes. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhaling for forward folding. So variations here are, you can place your hands on your shins, keep your back straight. You can grab the toes, bending your knees, or lengthen the legs. So inhaling, lengthen through the spine and through the top of the head. Exhale, fold forward. Again, feel free to bend your knees. Breathing here, 5 breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Inhale, head up. Exhale here. Next pose, reverse plank. You can place your hands 1 foot behind the hips. Fingers are still pointing forward. Pointing the feet out. You can stay here if you like in this variation, or we can move into the full posture and hold for 3 to 5 breaths. If you stay in this pose, you can relax the head back and breathe. If you're gonna lift the hips in reverse plank, then here we go. Inhale all the way up. Let the left head hang back. And breathing here, 5 breaths, or maybe 3 breaths. 1, 2, 3. Lowering back down on the exhale. Come back to seated staff. Next pose, boat pose, Navasana. Again, first we're going to set it up. Find your balance on your sit bones. Your knees can be bent. You can have your hands on your knees or lengthen the arms, fingers closed. This is one variation. And if you're up for a challenge, you can straighten the legs and breathing 3 breaths. 1, 2, 3. That one was a tough one to count. Great. So lowering back down on the exhale, cross the ankles and the legs. We're just going to roll forward to come to laying down on your mat. Into locust. We're going to do locust pose next. So to set it up, you can place your feet, the tops of your feet on your mat. If you have some lower back pain or anything like that, feel free to widen the legs. Tops of the hands are on the side. Tops of the hands are on your mat. And pulling the shoulder blades down the back. And facing forward on an inhale, lifting the legs and the head, pressing into the hand and the hip bones. Counting here for 5 breaths. Sometimes we tend to compensate by pressing the belly out. Make sure you try to keep your belly in and just grounding through the hips, lengthening through the legs, pressing through the hands, drawing the shoulder blades back. 1 more breath here. And exhaling, release. Good job. Moving to Cobra, bringing your hands to your ribs. Rib cage area. You can bring your legs together and keep them on the floor, nice and strong. Lengthen and inhale, lift. Using more of your back as opposed to pressing into your hands to get that lift. And breathing 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Exhaling and release. Good job. Now coming up to table pose and bringing your knees forward into camel. Your knees are hip distance. Your hips will be above your knees as much as possible. Tops of your feet on the mat. One modification here is to curl your toes under, so tuck your toes. And we can just start with a gentle stretch, pressing into your hips with your hands. Bring your elbows together behind you. And if you want, you can stay here and just sort of lengthen through the spine this way. Or the full variation of camel will be to reach back and grab your ankles. So on an inhale, lengthen. Good. And then dropping back, touching the ankles. Try to keep your hips above your knees. Breathing here, 3 breaths. 1, 2, 3, and on the inhale, coming back up. Whew. Back to table pose. All right, so from here, we're just gonna do one more back bend. We've been doing all this prep work. Coming forward to lay down on your mat, however you get there. And placing your feet on the mat, hips, knees or hip distance apart. Kind of roll your shoulder blades under. And if you can, bring your ankles as close as you can to your hands. Otherwise, wherever you can get it is fine. When we engage in this pose, make sure that you're engaging the inner thighs. Try to keep your legs parallel, not splayed out. We're going to do 2 variations of this pose. The first one is a supported version of the bridge pose. We'll breathe a few breaths there, come down, and then we'll do a second version. And on the second round, you can do whichever version you want. So from here, find your position and inhale. And you can support yourself with your hands. Again, engage at the inner thighs, pressing. Try not to squeeze the buttocks too much. And just breathe here, easy breathing. 1, 2, 3, 'and relax. Exhaling down to the floor. Second one. Again, you can choose whatever variation you want. You can do the first one again, or the second one. Inhaling, lift up, and then just roll the shoulder blades under and clasp your hands. Breathing 3, 1, 2, 3, 'and relax. Back down to the floor. Good. After all those back bends, let's give our back a little break. Bring your knees to your chest. Just hug your knees. Give yourself a nice squeeze. And you can rock side to side. And then just bring your legs over to the side and come up to seated, however you want to do that safely. Regular seated posture, whatever's comfortable for you. We're going to do just a little bit of breathing to steady our breath after all of those back bends, and then we'll do resting pose. So sitting up nice and tall, pressing through the top of the head. Slow, steady breathing. Inhale. Exhale. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. And release. From here, we'll just go into Shavasana, resting pose, to take in all that goodness. Let your breathing return to normal, and close your eyes for a minute. I'll bring you out in just a moment. So slowly open your eyes, wiggling your fingers and your toes, coming back into the room. And when you're ready, turn over to the side and just come back up to your seated position at your own pace. Great. That was a short little lunchtime practice. Thank you so much for joining us, Lanay. Thank you also for practicing too, and your pup there. Namaste, everyone. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.